everyone. Welcome to Kershaw County Library, Camden branch. Today we're going to be doing aromatherapy shower soother. I'm Debbie. This is?
I'm Cris.
Some of you have probably joined us before for Mask and Mocktails, and if you're joining us today, we're hoping to see you real soon again when we reopen the doors and have another Mask and Mocktails, right?
That's right.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We're going to kind of jump right into this since we're kind of limited on time, but we're hoping that this will be something you can use at home to kind of soothe your senses during this time that we're going through.
And of course, we are doing our social distancing.
Yes, as you can see, we're those of us that are still working in the library are very conscious of doing that as we work together throughout the day. So to bring you these wonderful programs that we're doing online. Well, Cris, let's get started with the ingredients.
Okay, so one of the things that we're going to be using is baking soda, and that's going to end up being a 1 3/4 cup of baking soda. We're going to have 1/2 cup of cornstarch. If you don't use cornstarch and you have arrowroot powder, that's perfectly acceptable to use that as well. Then we have a little array of essential oils here. For today, we're going to use lavender and peppermint. And boy, does it smell good in here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be 1 tablespoon of the essential oils. And then the last ingredient, which is not on the table yet, is plain old water, and we're going to use up to 4 tablespoons of water.
That's right.
So are we ready to get our gloves on and start
Yeah,
this mix?
let's do that. Ready?
Let's start with our ingredients. Here is the baking soda.
Okay, and that's how much, Cris?
1 3/4 cup.
Okay.
1/2 cup of cornstarch.
In it goes. Oh, it doesn't want to go. Okay, here we go. There we are.
And our 1 tablespoon of essential oils.
The best part. The best part. Oh, wish you guys could smell this now.
So we're going to mix that together very well.
As I try not to flip too much of it out of the bowl. And it does need to be mixed and mashed really well.
And if you're a person that likes to get their hands in there and mix it, that's okay too, especially if you have gloves on.
You must be reading my mind. That's exactly what I want to get in there and do.
Well, go on ahead.
We'll do that when we add the water. How about that?
Now, while we're talking about the essential oils, that last ingredient, we said earlier that we're using lavender and peppermint for ours, but you can use whatever kind of a mix that you want to use as long as it totals up to the 1 tablespoon required for the recipe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And some people like to use the lavender and lemon, which would be nice for your nighttime shower. The peppermint's great for your morning shower to wake you up.
And for those of you who have sinus and allergy issues, you can use something like Thrive.
That's right. Okay, so we're going to use our 4 tablespoons of water here. And you mix one in at a time.
Now that we've gotten it all mixed up, I'm going to start adding them to the molds. Now the molds that we have 2 different kinds here, and there's a reason for that. You can actually make different size molds or use different size molds to make these because you don't have to have just one size of them. Some people prefer to have smaller ones, some people prefer to have the bigger ones.
And you can play with it as Cris and I do. We like to experiment with different things. You can even use ice cube trays with this, can't you, Cris?
You can. As a matter of fact, that's what this one was designed for.
Right, but just your regular ice cube trays you can use. You don't have to get fancy. You can look for things around the house that you can pack them in. The silicone molds do work well, and so do the ice cube trays because it's easier for removal that way. Do be careful though, if you use the mold that Cris is using now is basically a candy mold. If you use a candy mold, you want to make sure that you're only going to use it for the shower soothers because the scent will stay in the silicone. So that's just a little tip there. You don't want to go to make your candy next time and be smelling lavender, although that wouldn't be too bad.
And you'll notice as I've filled these up, I'm pushing down on this to make it pack tightly. Otherwise, it's not going to form into a good solid tablet. And we want it to do that so that it'll be usable in the shower.
Yes, the compact texture of it is what really counts. You don't want it to fall apart immediately when you place it in the shower. So you want it just to disintegrate and dissolve just slowly so it can release those oils. And you don't put it in the stream of the water, you put it to the side so the steam and a little bit of water can get on it. But when it releases those essential oils, it'll just, it does work wonders. Very good job there, Chris.
Sometimes. And it looks like it's taking me a while to fill this, but it's really not. It just seems like it's a long time when you're doing it. You may not notice that, but I do. But these, because they're deeper and thicker, they're going to require a little bit longer drying time. What was it that they said? 24 to 48 hours of drying time for these before they will actually be usable.
And you want to make sure you do give it plenty of time. I know it's exciting to have these and you want to use them right away, but it's important to make sure they're dry. The time also depends on how much humidity you might have in your house. If you've got a really dry house, it won't take as long. If there's a little more humidity in the air, you might need to leave it a little bit longer. But just touching it, you can tell when they're hard enough to use in the shower. And sometimes you might even take a few out and they crumble, and that's okay. That's going to happen.
Now, because these yellow ones are a smaller mold, like we said, it's not going to take as long to dry, and they will fall out without any problem once they're completely dry.
Once you do remove your soothers from the mold, you can store them in a closed container, obviously, and I would try to find a nice dry place to store them. Wouldn't you, Chris?
You wouldn't want them to melt.
Didn't want them to melt before you get them in the shower. Also, depending on the size, as Chris mentioned earlier, you might want to use 2 of them depending on your molds. You kind of got to play with it a little bit to see what works for you. You might just want the stronger fragrance.
Or a longer shower.
Or a longer shower, that's right. Again, I want to emphasize, don't put it exactly in the stream, the heavy stream of your shower. Just put it in the corner. The steam will help melt it a little bit. You can move it around with your foot a little bit if it's not melting quick enough.
Now, we don't know exactly how many soothers that one of these batches makes because it's going to depend upon the size of the mold that you use. So we can't give you an actual number, but there's going to be plenty of the mixture. By the time I finish the second mold, we could probably even put it into a third mold, simply because we have different sizes that we're working with. One of the things that I find the most fascinating about this is I'm actually new to doing a lot of this stuff, and Debbie's been helping me along a lot with this. She's more into some things than I am right now, but I have not begun yet to mix essential oils into different groups, and she's been showing me different ways, which is why I found this one to be so fun, because we got to mix 2 different scents of essential oil for this, and we can smell it, and it is again so very, very wonderful.
It's lovely,
of
yes.
a scent. And if I woke up to this or was ready to go to bed at night and could smell this, I would be very soothed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, Chris and I like to experiment a lot. We did that with these recipes, actually. We are going to give you a second recipe on this video that only requires 3 ingredients without the cornstarch. Now, this recipe tells us that the soothers should be baked, which we did a batch of those. They worked out fine, but didn't seem to be as fragrant, did they, Chris?
Oh, no,
as
they were
the
not
ones we
nearly.
just let air dry. However, with the baked ones, you can add the essential oil after you've baked them, but you need to be very careful and not use a large amount.
Okay, it looks like I've got these all packed, and
Those
I'm gonna
look
set
great.
them aside for a nice dry. But before we leave you, we want to show you what the finished product looks like.
Yes, and here is a plate full. We're not eating them.
No, we're
They-
not eating them.
They do look edible, they look delicious, but they smell delicious. That's the important thing. And these are all the three, these are the three different sizes that we made. And as you can see, some of ours did crumble. You can still use the pieces in the shower. Don't let them go to waste. They're still just as fragrant. You can see that one of these would probably do by themselves in the shower. The smaller ones, the bonbon size, you would need to use 2 of those and possibly 2 of those, but just play with it and experiment. That's what Chris and I do, and that's what you do anytime you have a do-it-yourself at home.
That is right. So we're going to leave you with the second recipe as we go out, and we do appreciate you all coming and watching us. I'm Chris.
And I'm Debbie, and don't forget to join us for our programming online and also when we reopen, which we hope is very, very soon. We miss you guys a lot, especially our mask and mocktail friends. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Bye.